say.
I'm just excited about the future because I just had a client recently who came to us only for accounting. They came to us only for accounting, and they lost $200,000 last year.
Wow.
And we're like, we met with them. So because we're doing the accounting and we can see that, we're like, hey, you lost money and we don't want you losing money. We want your operations to be to surpass your accounting needs. So just because you have your books doesn't mean anything if you lost $200,000. And in December, he got to where he turned a profit. So that's pretty exciting.
This episode made possible by Restaurant Systems Pro. With excitement, allow me to introduce to you today's guest, CEO of Restaurant Systems Pro, Fred Langley. My man, my brother, are you feeling unstoppable today?
I'm feeling unstoppable. It's good to be here.
It's always good to have you back, man. And I know it's only been about 6 or 7 months since your last episode went live, but I feel like so much is happening behind the scenes for Restaurant Systems Pro. And, we're continuing to grow this relationship, and I can't wait to kind of pick up where we left off. But before we do, let's get that motivational, inspirational ball rolling with a success quote or mantra. What's resonating with you these days?
So this one's resonating with me, and we kind of came up and we talked about it in our meetings that we had. So we just had our meetings here with our elite group, and one of the things that came out of it in leadership was that losers blame others, but winners take responsibility. And it's a big thing when you start seeing that people that show up to serve others, take responsibility, really do a better job of being leaders. It's kind of that leading from behind sort of mentality that is, or leading from the front, I should say, where you're showing up for people, you're sacrificing yourself for others and taking responsibility as an owner. And as a good leader, you're going to give credit for all the successes, and you're going to take blame for the failures and take them.
Yeah. Where did this bubble up that triggered this quote?
Well, just triggered as we're trying to help restaurants identify what the best leaders are in their organizations and what are the characteristics and traits of that, and kind of stemming from like the Navy SEALs and what are they looking for the elite fighting force? Like what is and this is where it was asked a Navy SEAL, like what are the characteristics of a person that makes it? And what they said is, I can't tell you the person that does make it, but I can tell you who doesn't make it. And it's not the muscle bound dude who's, thinks he's tough and is going to come out and prove something. It's not the college athlete that has never really faced adversity or any kind of real challenges before. It's not the leader that's constantly delegating and not ever, stepping in the trenches. It's the person that is, when all fear is taken over their body, they're shaking, they've expended all emotional energy, all physical energy, and they're at the end of their rope, and they're still helping the person to their right, and they're helping the person to their left, and they're making sure they're doing it.
Yeah,
that's what makes a Navy SEAL.
Yeah, and that's what makes a restaurateur.
Yep,
the best restaurateurs. It's lifting up other people, rippling out, not making it about ego, not the most talented chef, not the most, I don't know where else you could go with that, like that train of thought, but just basically it's the people that really exist to serve others that always go furthest in this. It's
not their ego. Yeah, it's like the chef that's all about me and my food, my responsibility. It's like, well, what am I going to do? What am my people that are under me? How are they going to get paid? How are they going to improve their lives? How are they going to get credit for this food that we're making? How are my servers going to make money and pay their rent, and take care of their families, and be able to get time off to take care of their families, and all those things.
And in that sentiment too, I feel like you're echoing this idea of togetherness, and we go further together.
Absolutely.
A Navy SEAL is only as good as the Navy SEAL next to him,
Yep.
So like you really got to and that is just another one of those traits that I really want to echo as I go forward too, is that we got to stop competing against the people on Main Street. Like it's like, how can we, like what you were actually, I went live today, or not live, I shared a story.
Okay.
And I was using you as an example on how you inspire me. What you do here with the Restaurant Systems Pro Elite Mastermind, where 30 people come together quarterly, and you all get in this room and you beat the shit out of each other, but not in like a bad way. But it's just like, you could be doing this better, or have you thought about that?
Yep.
And it's really in this like brotherly and sisterly, like we're in this together, let's lift each other up. And my mission with Restaurant Unstoppable Network is to recreate what you've done with Restaurant Systems Pro, but also to say like, hey, we can do this on a bigger scale, and we can take what we're doing here and we can do it in our community. And like, I think when I said the mission is to change the world, if we can do that, and if we can change communities through restaurants, then hell yeah, we can change the world. Yeah, man.
Yeah, and restaurants affect communities around them. They're serving the people in those communities. They're helping the organizations in those communities. They're employing people in those communities. They're making the neighborhoods better in those communities. Restaurants are just the backbone of our country. I really feel it.
100%. So to recap where we left off, big things that we touched on. You announced Serve Restaurant Systems Pro. Sister POS or brother, how would you, what in your language would you call it?
It's a POS system that is directly tied with it. I guess it's a sister company kind of. We're all in the same umbrella as
sibling
a
company.
Yeah, sibling company. Yeah. So and we're just showing up. It's delayed a couple years really in launching it, but it's through our own integrity that we've done that. We've developed technology to be better and better with KDS and Connection, General Ledger, the only POS system that has full accounting in it that replaces QuickBooks. I mean, the fact that we replace QuickBooks is huge. You don't have to be using our POS system for those things, but it's just making it to where we're going to be able to dive deeper, and we're really excited. Our commitment to the restaurateur has spurred our delay in launching it because I've been teaching credit card processing and what you should be looking for and how you should be saving it for 20 years. So I better be delivering.
That was a big sentiment in our last conversation was just some of the challenges you go through and like your integrity and also you've been doing this for now 20 plus years, 20, almost 21 years,
in the industry, 40 years, 37 years.
So it's hard to pull a fast one on you and your team and your partners. Like Gino, that guy is sharp. Like you're not getting one by him, and he knows how to go. He knows what to look for. He knows a good deal. So I really have just being like I said, a fly on the wall last time, continuing to see how you're drawing these hard lines in the sand, and you're saying like, no, these are our standards, and this is our intention, and we're not going to settle.
Some of these credit card companies really expected us to fold. They thought that they could bait and switch us on a lot of things that we were doing with them, and they thought we would just go, oh well, I guess we're kind of stuck. We're already 8 months into it, and all these thousands of dollars, and we stuck to who we are and said, you're out.
Where were you in July? So this episode went live in July.
Last July.
May is when I was talking to you?
So we were really about to be ready, and there's so much that comes in the technical aspect of programming, and so we've just been behind in the programming. And the reason we did is it'll be our next switch as far as processing partner that we have, because the first one wouldn't allow offline mode, which I can't leave a restaurant owner with a dining room.
So the first one, when did you realize that wasn't going to work?
It was a good 8 to 9 months into it, and then we had to have the courage to pull the trigger.
When did it start?
So it started where they're like, oh yeah, they say yes to everything, and I'm sure all restaurateurs have experienced this, where a salesman tells you one thing, in the partnership they're going to tell you one thing, but then when it comes down to signing on the dotted line, they go, oh, by the way, we can't do offline mode like we said.
We thought I was going to be ready, but it turns out it's not. We're still good though, right?
And remember that rate that we said that you could get so you could pass on savings to the restaurant clients? We're not going to be able to do that because you're just starting out.
So when did that first conversation happen, when you decided to take over this POS?
So it was right about then, and then about a year ago was when we switched to another team, and we got the next one going pretty well, and then that one, part of our commitment is being transparent with the credit card processing rates that we're going to be giving our clients.
Specifically the interchange rates, right?
The interchange rates, and being transparent and be able to show them what they are and show them what they should be and what our true markup is and all that. And the next company were like, oh, well, they gave us the rates, they can do offline modes, they did that stuff, but then when it came to like being transparent with our customers and be able to show them what these cards are charging, what the interchange is and all that, they're like, oh, our reporting's not good enough, we can't do that. And I'm like, well, we have to, if we're going to tell people that we're doing a special price for them, then we got to be able to back it up.
Right.
Every single time, all these restaurateurs out there, they've experienced a credit card processor coming and saying, hey, these are your rates, and then they change them over time, or they just say, oh yeah, you are getting the best rate, and then they look at their statement and it's 300 different cards, and they're supposed to know if that's the right rate or not, and it's just not transparent.
Yeah, and a company like Restaurant Systems Pro that was built on data and transparency and giving power to the restaurateur by giving them access to that data, that is how you build trust, and that has to extend to the world of your processing.
Yeah, and there's a lot of broken trust out there. There's credit card processing companies that are just buying POS systems just so they can mark up credit card processing rates. There are big players in the market that are changing their contracts wording because Congress is basically pulling the hammer down on interchange fees and calling them. And so instead of calling them interchange fees, now we call them cost of processing, and we can raise the price as much as we want on it. And they think that the restaurateurs aren't paying attention, and so they're going for that money.
Yeah, I don't want to call out specific companies by name, but if you're interested in which company this is, be sure to join Fred and I for a profit power hour sometime.
Nice. We can talk specifics then.
Yeah, we'll get into the details. Just head over to restaurantunstoppable.com and sign up for the network, and we'll bring you into one of those conversations. So that last company that you're talking about that didn't have the data, when did you kind of pull the plug on that relationship?
So we didn't actually pull the plug, so we're still working with them. We're able to actually still work with them going forward because in our accounting system, we're finishing up the ability for them to click on the invoices that have come in and pay through ACH directly out of the system and so that allows connection to the bank and allowing them to connect to their bank account and pay invoices directly through ACH without having to do it third party and do it directly out of the system. So,
I'm not gonna lie, man. Listening to you right now, a lot of this is going in one ear and out the other.
Yeah,
I'm not like the best on this part of stuff, but like, I mean, like layman's terms, like, it sounds like you found a back door to be able to get that data. Is that kind of
so? No, we had to switch companies to one that provided good reporting, and so we're still keeping the other company around just in case we need to have another processor. It's just they just aren't allowing the transparency. So, but there is different things that we can use them for, and we don't need to end that relationship because they've been pretty good, but they just don't have the capability to be transparent with the customer, which is crazy to me. But yeah.
So what still has to happen to be where you want to be?
So we're actually ready to go. Actually, on Christmas, you talk about how hard Gino works. On Christmas Day, they were finalizing some testing on the cards, and now we're just finishing up our compliance to make sure that our software is secure. I mean, it's credit card data. It's got to be secure. It's got to be next level on that stuff, especially tokenizing things where you're storing offline credit card information in case the internet does go out and things like that. So we've finished all that, and we're actually shipping out POS systems. And we're really, really excited about what it's doing and how powerful it is. And
I love that.
Yeah.
I can't wait to get you back on the show to hear how things are going. And to be clear for our listeners, you still integrate with the other major players.
Oh yeah, that's why we're dual branded.
Yeah. Yep. The most recommended on the show right now, Toast POS, Square.
Yep.
And the one that I'm really pushing right now, and I'll be honest, you had influence on this, and it's a company that I think is going to be giving some of the other leaders a real run for its money. Is spot on.
Yeah, they've been really great to work with. Our integrations are really clean. A lot of times we'll work with these companies and for me, it's a sign of the character of the company where they only care about themselves and what they're doing. And Spot On was a company where they care about their clients and caring about their clients, getting the best and most value out of what they're doing. And so what's cool about them is they were so easy to work with, and their integrations are really good, and we're able to connect very nicely with them.
Yeah. Since when I last spoke to you, and driving all over the country, I don't know if I read this book. Have you ever heard me talk about Power in Progress?
I don't think I have. No.
Duran, I'm not going to be able to say your last name. Is a professor at I think MIT or Harvard on like economics, and he wrote this book called Power in Progress.
Okay.
And he co-wrote it with somebody. And the whole idea behind that book is this idea that like as long as history has been a thing, as far back as we can look, whenever technology improves, whoever owns that technology, whoever controls that technology, is incredibly disproportionately more powerful than the rest of society. And if you have complete market share in any vertical, the imbalance of like if you get to the point where you have like 60% or 50% or more market share, whoever controls the technology, controls the power, whoever has the money controls the narrative, and it becomes this like weird world where it's getting really difficult to keep the power fragmented.
Yeah,
because we as a society rely so much on technology, and the marketplace is like I feel like it's getting easier and easier to monopolize the world.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts? Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
I don't want to force you.
Yeah,
there's
there's definitely an air to that, especially when you start looking at. I mean, sometimes we think that people think we're a small company and they don't even want to look at us because we're not I'm doing air quotes, big enough. I had a company tell me that we weren't big enough for them, and they were like archaic. They were doing things on pencil and paper and spreadsheets, and were really behind the times, but stood there and told me that we didn't have enough technology to help them. And so it was actually quite arrogant of them to say, because we actually had all the tools to help them make their life easier, and their judge was that they were so big that they were above us. And it's like they were going to look at other systems, and those other systems, without talking, we try to focus on myself and not others, but we pick up the phone and we help people, and we're there for our customers, and we have really good technology.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I think the other thing that kind of tie into this thought of power and progress, and when there's an imbalance of power, there tends to be less progress. Is this idea that we as human beings are naturally inclined to go with word of mouth. Mm-hmm. This is how we're wired. It's like, what are other people saying? When I started this podcast, one of my collective missions, part of the collective mission, was to go get word of mouth referrals. And I was only going to promote the tools and services my guests recommend. Mm-hmm. And if I'm looking at my data, by far, the two most recommended POSs on the show, I think I might have mentioned them already.
The two most.
If you had a guess, which two do you think are the most recommended?
The two most recommended one. Well, I think that Spot On would be one.
It's getting mentioned more, but over the past 11 years.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Toast is the one that people are going to, and really, and they even say what their market growth is, that servers would love it, and they would tell their owners that hey, we gotta get this POS system. And so when the employees loved it, that really sparked their growth. Yeah.
So Square was the other most recommended. Yeah. I think I hear more of Toast being recommended because they serve more of my target guest, whereas Square is more like cafes. Low ticket.
It's easy entry to market. So what they do is they position themselves as free, but now you're paying 4% credit card processing, which is not free.
I think that's why you see them in a lot of cafes.
Yeah.
When you have an average check average of $4, $5, then that 4% doesn't feel as bad, right?
Man.
What do you think?
Well, the thing is, when you're low ticket like that too, you're also getting charged per transaction as well, and so. Transaction could be $100 and a transaction could be $5, and you're still getting a fixed cent. It could be 5, 10, 15 cents a transaction.
Oh, wow.
There. And so like we even worked with a new client that's coming on their donut shop, and we particularly really tried to give them that low cost of transaction, because a donut shop's not like a steakhouse, right? There's going to be lower transaction. There's going to be lower dollar transactions. So that fixed amount could really add up to be more percentage points for them.
So when you say a new customer, is this relative to Serve or Restaurant Systems Pro
or both? Both.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Awesome. But like where I was going with that train of thought is that, again, I was out to get this word of mouth, right? I was out to find out and then only promote the tools and services that are recommended. But I think that in a world that we live in today, like you have to remember, the majority of our existence has been in small groups of like small hunter-gatherer groups. And then before that, it was, small cities. And, you go back 50, 60 years ago before the internet really, and like, or not the internet, but before cable, it's when syndication happened that we started going nationwide, right? And now marketplaces just exploded. You went from a marketplace 50-mile radius to nationwide or even worldwide in some markets. Yeah. But we're still hardwired the same to go with what most people use. Yeah. So that money went from being very well spread out to now, like, if you want a burger, like, where do you go in from? Like, there's every town has its best burger joint to now I'm getting McDonald's. Yeah. So like it's like that with everything.
Just because it's
like,
familiar.
It's the same thing with POS systems. Yeah. Like you want to but where's the best place in town to get a POS? Yeah. Toast, or Square. Yeah. And I want to preface all this by saying these companies are good companies in the sense that, like, I think that they were built in good intention. They have great user experiences and their customers tend to be happy. But I think all I'm trying to communicate right now is that we as an industry have to be very mindful of making organizations too powerful, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And I'm not saying that these are corrupt organizations, but I'm saying that if we let it happen, like, we have to be thinking about, like, just like buying local with our food. I think that mindset has to apply to the technology we're investing in too, or at least thinking about, like, intentionally fragmenting.
Well, I'm going to let you say that, because if I say it, it looks like it's self-serving. So,
I mean, I wish I didn't read this damn book, Fred, because it opened my eyes, and now I can't like see the world differently. And I'm like, shit, I've been doing it wrong this whole time. Like I've been, you gotta be open-minded.
Yeah. What I do know is that we show up. Whether it's Saturday night, whether it's when our clients need us, we're there. That we want to. I mean, recently I had a client that was I can't do this for everybody, but I had a client that was struggling. You referred them to me because it was that direct relationship between you and I. I sent one of my consultants on the ground just because our heart was out to help them. Right, I didn't even charge them for it, and that's to put somebody on a plane, pay for a hotel, get them out there, have them spend a week with you. Hopefully they understand how much of an expense that is for us to give, but it's in their best benefit, and they're starting to thrive, and we're starting to see that it's improving, and they're turning a corner because they've had a lot of other software companies take major advantage of them, and we wanted to really help.
Yeah, that's one of the things I love about you. And I'll start to backpedal away from this topic so we can focus on other things. But I think I just want to leave with this one thought. I think when it gets to the point where people are afraid to talk because they're afraid of what will happen if they talk.
Yeah.
Like their really sweetheart deal with that company might get pulled, or I might not be able to talk freely because if I'm getting sponsored by this company, then they might not want to sponsor the company anymore or the podcast anymore. And like that's when you start flirting with that line of absolute, like, power corrupts absolutely.
I think that's why we've done so well, because you've introduced me to some other software companies that I've developed relationships. That's where I was going. And I've developed relationships with them, and we're working together, not against one another. And we could be, in some of these companies, we could be considered direct competitors, but if we just lean into it and help each other, we're ultimately helping the restaurateur, which is these people you've introduced me to have that same heart and same mindset and same goal.
Yeah. There's one we can't talk about.
Yeah.
There's another one that I got permission to talk about.
Okay.
I introduced you recently to my other sponsor, which is Mies.
Nice.
GetMees.com. Josh Sharkey.
Yeah.
And I actually took an opportunity to recognize the two of you.
Nice.
Because in the past, I've had first, I want to say grateful for all the sponsorship I've ever gotten. But as I brought on Restaurant Systems Pro, an enterprise solution that covers things from general ledger to labor management to accounts payable, accounts receivable, costing, inventory. The list keeps going. I haven't even filled like the complete suite of tools you offer, but there starts to become political conflict of interest between sponsors. And I've had sponsors say, we can no longer sponsor you because you're working with a direct competitor. Mies offers things that Restaurant Systems Pro offers. Specifically inventory, I think, is one of the biggest ones.
They added inventory, and they added invoice scanning, because you need to. If you're doing their focus is recipe costing and recipe instruction and getting that out and streamlining the training on executing recipes. And we have a lot of the same things in there. Their heart and where they're leaning in is really trying to help restaurants be consistent with their product, helping them scale recipes to say, hey, I have a beet salad I want to make, but instead of my recipe calls for 60 pounds of beets, but I only have 20 pounds. What's that recipe look like if I'm making it with only 20 pounds of beets? Or I have a wedding and it needs to serve 100 people. What's that recipe look like? And so there scale up and down recipes and stuff that we do. So they're doing some of what we do. But I have a client recently, and they're like, hey, Fred, I'm joining Restaurant Systems Pro. All these other things. You're replacing QuickBooks for me. The usage reports on connection to POS system, and the invoice scan and the labor controls and all that stuff that we do. But I love Mies. Can we just work there? And I had to tell him, like, no, we can't just take that data and work. And so I had a conversation with Josh, and Josh's heart is to help the restaurateur. And so we talked, and we're like, hey, we don't need to, like, if somebody's using your system and we can make their life easier, instead of, because it takes 80 to 100 hours to finish all of your recipes and get that stuff done. And they got it done quicker because they had used Mies in the past, and they got it done faster than normal because all the kind of the guesswork and things was out, and they could just really put in the data. But if I could have somebody that I can just help them in all the ways that we're really good at, and Mies can help them in all the ways that they're best at, we can work together and save them that time. Because ultimately, if we're just thinking about the restaurateur, that's fantastic if you're using these. That's one thing you don't have to do in my system, especially if Josh and I work together to connect the systems and allow them to do that. And the last thing a restaurateur wants is another 100 hours of work on their plate.
Right.
And if we can solve that, we're going to do that.
What up, Unstoppables? I have a very special offer for you that could potentially change your life. So listen up. Restaurant Systems Pro wants to make 2025 your best year ever. And here's what they're going to do to help. When you sign up for Restaurant Systems Pro through February of 2025, they will do your books, your 2024 books for you at zero charge. Nothing to you, no cost to you to do your books. Plus, you're going to get all of the Restaurant Systems Pro profitability systems. So this is such a no-brainer deal. If you've heard of Restaurant Systems Pro in the past, listening to the podcast, and you've been interested, now is the time to sign up. Head to restaurantunstoppable.com/RSP or click the link below and make 2025 your best year ever. Yeah, but I mean, choosing to, again, go further together, to be a Marine.
Together.
You know, and to, I think, you know, it's just another example of like, you guys could have been like, you know what, you know, I could have put you against each other and had you bid against each other, right? And whoever but like, that's not building community.
Yeah.
You know, like that's the world I was trying to get away from. And like, kind of, I felt like myself going down this path of like creating the situation where my old business model was leading me down this path where I would have to sell out in order to sustain what I want to do.
Right.
So being able to recognize the two of you and say, you know, thank you for choosing to work together and to see how your services can slingshot each other. You could choose to say, well, all or nothing, right?
Yeah.
But I think that mindset, having that mindset, like, I don't know, hopefully more people think like that.
Well, I think for an organization to be successful, they need to be focused on what they're doing and how they're making their company better and how they're showing up to help their customers better. And if that's your mindset, and if you think that your company is going to be put out of business because somebody else is competing against you or doing something else, then you're never actually going to make it to begin with.
Right.
Too. Competition should just make everybody better and sharpen each other's tools. And, you know, and I know that there's certain things, especially with Josh's passion. That's what when I talk with him, I really appreciate his passion. He isn't saying that he had to create some other systems that we have just because he had to. And he really just wants to provide a great way to look at recipes, to create recipes, to cost them out, and without having to do the usage reports and the inventory and all that, you know.
In his words, what they offer, I think their unique selling proposition is consistency among locations with recipes and like food, because their training and the costing and all like how they scale everything, like that's really like their sweet spot.
Yeah.
And, you know, I had a train of thought. I think we might have come full circle already. I don't know. We're kind of jumping all over the place right now. But I'm loving the conversation.
Well, you have us in contact with other people, too, that I'm excited about, too. We're not ready to talk about those yet. But all of it's with the heart of making the tech stack easier and things easier for the restaurateur to move forward.
Yeah. And the one thing I wanted to make sure in my conversation with Josh, I had to be sure to say that this is not live yet.
No, we're working on it though.
Yeah. But this is, you know, one of the things I'm very proud of is being a community builder, a connector. And I think it happens at the, you know, helping my listeners connect with the tools and services I've grown to believe in and support, but it also happens at the next level between all the different ancillary industries that surround the restaurant industry and helping connect CEOs of tech companies and being like, you know, you should really consider talking because if your system's integrated, it would be like you could slingshot off that technology. Like that's powerful.
People don't like learning new technology and new software. And so when you have one that you're comfortable with and you have another company that allows you to maintain that without having to get rid of every system you have, it's helpful and helps you move forward.
Yeah,
you know?
For sure. So anything else that's new that we haven't discussed?
Well, our company's growing rapidly, and we've really finished out our general ledger, and we're replacing QuickBooks. We're doing some great things in there, and we have, you know, our current clients are upgrading to it. QuickBooks, I think, announced that they're going to be ending their QuickBooks Desktop in June, so people are having to find other solutions. And I really disagree that QuickBooks Online is a good solution for restaurants. You can't really make good inventory adjustments. You can't do payroll accruals. You can't do, Your guys are glazing over, Eric, but it's
Oh,
really
kind of,
important for a restaurant.
You make a real point. Like I like, and I'll be the first person to admit I am not good in the details, but my whole career up to this point has been cruising at 30,000 feet. Like, tell me about your career,
Right.
But that's why I find people like Fred Langley, because he's amazing in the details, and I'm not going to be your restaurant coach that's going to say, here, let me help you with your numbers. I'm the guy that says, I know a guy, or a gal. Like, I will connect you with that person. If I'm opening a restaurant tomorrow, here's who I'm going to. So, but yeah, keep going along that.
Yeah, so it's just we're automating it too, and so automating is kind of a magic word, but we're, as much as you possibly can, making it to where your books are there. And in our meeting here in the Elite group, I just showed some of our clients that are not using our accounting system. I'm like, hey, let me click a few buttons here and look at your books are done, and they're done faster than your bookkeeper has them done, and you weren't even trying to use our bookkeeping; it just automatically did it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is really cool. Speaking of really cool, and I want to make sure, I'm sure this will come out at the end of the episode, and we'll reinforce it at the end. You are, through January and February 2025, offering free bookkeeping.
Yeah. So one of the things that we're able to do, like if you don't have your 2024 books done, that's extremely stressful, right? So one of the things that we're doing is, if you end up signing up to move forward with us and you sign on with Restaurant Systems Pro, we'll do your entire 2024 for free. And it's just to really show up and solve a big stress, because right now it's gonna be tax season. You got to have your books done. You got to be able to do it. You could file extensions and do all that, but as a operator, it's stressful not to have that done. And when you can have your taxes done and taken care of and have that P&L, it's really fantastic. Now, when it comes to using this on a regular basis, my clients, we delivered books on January 2nd for 2024, and it's our technology that's allowing us to do it. And our invoice scanning, connection to bank, all that stuff is really where it's at too. So if you don't have them done, let us help you, and let's make sure that your 2025 is on time every single month. And it's not just the accounting, but that you're actually driving your profitability, and you're hitting that 15 to 20% profit on top of having your books done. Because it's not just who wants to just get a report done so that we can, pay our taxes and let the government know what's going on. But let's make more money, and let's change our community and change our family and change our lives and build legacy and create opportunity for our staff to grow and in the company, and expand either in store or more stores, or just create time. It's so valuable.
So if you don't want to forget to take advantage of this opportunity, I'm going to give you the call to action now, and we'll echo it later. But you can either go to restaurantsystemspro.net /unstoppable. I think that is our landing page. That's still active. Or if you want to learn more about Restaurant Systems Pro, i.e. watch some of the live demos that we shot together over almost 2 hours long of going through literally every system. You can also search by by system, like scheduling, like costing, budgeting, if you want to just watch that section. And we have all of our testimonials from Restaurant Systems Pro. So if you want to do a little more research, you can head over to restaurantunstoppable.com/RSP. But I'm telling you right now, just go to Restaurant Systems Pro.
When you can set goals and budget and have a target for your restaurant, and have all these things that you didn't sign up for a restaurant to be like all about P&Ls and all that stuff. But when you can have that stuff taken care of, you show up better for your family, your guests, and your employees. And it makes life a lot better. Even if things are tough, having a plan reduces that stress.
Right. And I know right now somebody's listening to this. I'm like, we already do that. We don't need Restaurant Systems Pro. Right. I just got 3 amazing testimonials yesterday from people at the leadership level, like GMs, director of operations, or chief operations officer and chief information officer. And they said that, they're like, why are we doing this Restaurant Systems Pro thing? We don't need this. We're already doing it. But what Restaurant Systems Pro is, it's a checklist for that executive level. It's a checklist to hold you accountable to do all the little things. And then you get that the data associated with that. And then all of a sudden you realize how badly you were doing it before.
You start to realize what you did.
It doesn't take long to realize, now I know why we're doing this.
And that's a sign that if you think you have it all under control, you may need to if you think you've got it handled, you may need to take a look. Because the second that we aren't learning or aren't trying to figure out better ways or new processes, then we're falling behind.
Yeah,
for sure. And that goes for anything. It's not just the restaurant business, but just everything in life. You need to always be learning and moving forward and finding a new and better ways of doing things.
Yeah. And the last time I had you on the show, we were using Robert St. John as an example. We're actually in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, recording this today. And Robert St. John is the CEO of New South Restaurant Group, or
That's right.
Hospitality Restaurant Group, which consists of 5 unique concepts. Soon to scale one of their concepts to 3 or 3 additional. And we're going to go over those numbers tomorrow, and we're going to share the impact that you've had. Do you want to give a teaser? I know you know some of those numbers, and I know that Robert.
Yeah, they're you're talking 7 figures in difference, and it's only 4 or 5 stores. He's got and he's scaling now. When he has expanded and contracted over the years, and his team has a finger on the pulse of the numbers. They know shift by shift, week by week, day by day, exactly what their goals are and how they're on track for those goals and what they're doing. And it's changing lives. He's creating jobs out of nowhere for people to fill in his company. He's creating new restaurants for managers to be promoted to. He is he's providing health insurance for his team. He's doing some really, really great things. And as we've been here, we're eating at one of them. We're having dinner tonight at another one of his restaurants. But what I've really noticed is his employees are happy.
Yeah.
And I've been here before and they weren't as happy. And in the 2 years, he's not only changed the finances, but he's changed the culture. And they're not that he ever had bad culture, but you can just feel the difference.
I think it goes back to the power of data. When you can see the needle moving, you can feel accomplished. You're seeing progress. Yeah. It's like seeing that scale when you step on it. Like, I'm 230 pounds. That's fat. Let's get down to 225. Sweet. I made it. I feel good about myself. Let's get to 220. And then you start to see and you start to feel like that it's all for something.
And then you double down on your effort.
Yeah.
You start to get some of those wins and you go after more ways to get better and better at it.
Yeah. And you honestly, like the way that this whole thing panned out with you and Robert St. John, and I'm going to toot my horn.
Here's why. He's one of the first people you recommended to me too. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So my mission statement, do you know it? I say it all the time.
To inspire,
empower, and transform the industry. But it starts like really my mission is to change the world through inspiring, empowering, and transforming the industry. And what's a challenge for me sometimes when I'm literally just like grinding, I don't get to see the fruits of my effort. I don't get to see how this work touches people on the other side who are listening to this. I got to interview Robert St. John and have him as a guest on the show, and not really fully realizing how much of a fan he was of the podcast. And then he said, Eric, I hear a lot about this Restaurant Systems Pro that you're promoting. Give it to me straight, man to man, face to face. Is it the real deal? And I said, yeah, it's the real deal. Like all the testimonials I gotten are like legitimate. And I was like, I'm happy to make an introduction. 2.5 years ago that happened. And because of that introduction, like I've literally changed his life. And I believe that if I can change the lives of restaurant owners around the world, in the country, then they will change the lives of their employees, and it will ripple out, and the world will change. So, like, seeing that it's like the dream, the vision on a small scale, in some little glimmer of a way, is actually coming to fruition. Is so like.
So here's the joy that I have. I have the joy of seeing that on a bigger scale. On the podcast, we talk about Robert St. John a lot because he's a good example. He's the very first person you ever recommend. There's more people that you've recommended us that are making these great changes in here. But I get to see somebody come in and their back's against the wall. They're at 3 locations and they don't know how they're going to get to 10. Or, I get to see these transformations. We talked about Steve. Steve was in the meeting today. He got a little emotional. I think you had to step out. He got a little emotional. He was talking about, he lost his wife recently, and he's like, she loved me before I had money, and now he's out there and she's passed and it's a few years later, and he's like, and he's always questioning people's motives when they come to it. But he's changed the lives of his managers. He's changed. It's a good problem to have if you're worried about a woman's only talking to you because of how rich you are. Right. But there are worst case scenarios. There are worst case scenarios than that. But he's changed the lives of his employees. He has people that have worked. He's having his 40th year anniversary. He has people that have worked for more than 30 years. He's just done so many great things, and it's inspiring to see. And I see that all the time. So, it's happening to Robert right now. This room is full of people that it's happened to where they've just barely been making it by, maybe making a little bit of money. And what they're doing with their restaurants is incredible. And even Keely, like what Keely does, she was in here today. I remember back in 2008, she was doing dollar beers and dollar burgers in her college town restaurant because she wanted to give back to the community. And we're like, dude, you can give back to the community in such a bigger way than getting college kids drunk, too. And she has so much that she does in her community now through real dollars and real change in her community, and it's really inspiring to watch.
I love that. Yeah. Anything else we haven't discussed that you want to make sure we talk about? I knew we were going to intend to keep this one short, just kind of checking in.
I mean, I just want to, I'd urge listeners to give us a chance. I don't care. I mean, we have restaurants that do 200,000 that are with us, and we have restaurants that do 100 million that are with us between their groups. We have restaurants that are I think we don't have like 100 unit places, but we do have a 38 unit place. We do have lots of multi-units. So if you're thinking that we can't serve you there, we have enterprise, we have accounting, but we're also going to drive your profits, which is really what's going to change the world. And a lot of time, what's happening with us right now is as we've brought on accounting, the restaurateurs out there are really problem aware that they need their accounting problem solved and that they need POS system with good processing and one that really works well and is easy to use in their place. Those are things restaurateurs are problem aware. And where my heart goes is, and this is where I've built my business and where we've been in business for the past 20 years doing, is changing to where you have time as a restaurateur by getting control of your business, and you have profits to really to grow, to change the life of your family and your employees and all that. And if you think that you're just fine, I would still urge you to look at us, because we are really making an impact on people. And I just talked to somebody who they thought that, and in fact, Robert talked about it, where he had a manager tell him it was impossible. And we were just kind of demonstrating some stuff. And I'm like, oh, by the way, Robert had a manager that said 20% labor was impossible, and he ran 15.
That's crazy.
And the hospitality and service,
they were at 40%. For the record, they were at 40% and they went down to 15%.
And
labor.
Didn't we just talk about how great the hospitality was in service? And they still ran 15% labor. Yeah. So it is possible. And if you think it's impossible, you really need to talk to us.
Yeah. I want to wrap up. Sorry, do you want
to
say something?
It's just what's happening is, my heart is, people are coming to us in droves a lot more than before this, because who wants to do inventory and budget labor and do all that stuff? But now that we have accounting, our trajectory is up, because we're solving this thing that they understand. But where my heart is I want you to have your books and have them on time, but I want you making gobs of money. And I want you to, and I want you also having time for your family and to not miss your kid's soccer game and to show up for your family. And I understand that money's not evil. Money just magnifies what's there. And if there's a lot of great people in the restaurant industry that want to show up and provide hospitality and serve people and take care of their employees, and if we can magnify that, then we're doing a good job.
Yeah, if you want to make an impact in your community, if you want to leave your dent in this world when you go, the way to do that is with money. Like you need to, money makes it happen. It's the fuel to the machine.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can have the most influence ever, but you still got to help. You still got to pay your employees' bills. You know?
Yep.
So fiscal responsibility is one of the core values.
And we don't have to step on other people to do it.
No.
We don't. We can build. We can all. It's a rising tide.
Yeah, 100%. So I want to kind of wrap up today's conversation with how we started, and you alluded to this idea of almost like extreme ownership and accountability.
Yeah.
And owning. So if I'm self-reflecting, where I've gotten today with Restaurant Unstoppable, and like where I want to go into the future, I feel like since 2020, really, I've been kind of wanting to I had this dream, this vision to launch Restaurant Unstoppable Network, and it's never gone anywhere. But while I'm doing that, while I'm trying to create this online presence, I'm still driving around the country in my truck camper, and I found the balance of those two things to be really hard. It's kind of like you're always, as a restaurateur, you probably feel the same way. Like you're like, oh, my culture is struggling. I need to focus on that.
Yeah.
And then you're like, while you're focusing on your culture, you're like, oh shit, my systems and my numbers are like falling. So you go to focus on that. And then your culture starts to then fall again. So it's like you're constantly pushing in this way, pushing in that way, like the plate spinning, right? And one thing I've learned, is that as I go forward, it's really going to be my intentionality to be able to keep my free voice, to be able to speak what I want to speak, to become less dependent on chasing revenue from sponsors, and to find more long-term partners like Restaurant Systems Pro that I believe in, and to be who I am. And who I am is a community builder. I'm an influencer, and I'm a promoter. I want to build community, and I want to use my ability to influence to promote the people I would go to tomorrow if I was opening a restaurant. I said this in the last episode, but ClickFunnels is a tool that you introduced me to.
Yeah.
ClickFunnels is to podcaster as Restaurant Systems Pro is to restaurant owner. It's the systems you need to get the job done.
Yeah.
So going into 2025, my 3 goals are to get a minimum of 250 members into Restaurant Unstoppable Network, to write, if not a full book, at least the framing of a book called The Unstoppable Path, and to get 10,000 email subscribers.
Nice.
So I guess to let the listeners know, we have been going live. You go live twice a month. We said originally once a week, but it's twice a month.
Yeah.
And the whole idea of that live is to basically create space where, if you're listening to this, anyone who's listening to this wants to be a part of the community, $47 a month to get access to Fred for 2 hours a month, basically. And you can ask him any question you want relative to restaurant profitability, restaurant systems.
And that $47 is going to Restaurant Unstoppable to support the work that you're doing.
Yes.
Just so
and that's your giving your expertise to us. We would love for you to sign up for Restaurant Systems Pro, but you can help without doing that.
Yep, I'll still show up for you.
Yeah.
Because the software makes it easier, but you still have the principles that you have to execute. Yeah.
And the other thing that I'm doing too is I'm getting leaders, mentors from different verticals of the restaurant industry, whether that's QSR, casual dining, fine dining, fast casual, whatever, to hold space, to basically just be there, just like you do here with the Restaurant Systems Pro Elite Mastermind, to create that space for people to come together and to choose to work with each other, to support each other.
Now, my mastermind's a lot more expensive, and we're getting on planes and going to others' restaurants. But one of the things that happens, we meet, I'm tired right now, but I'm energized because the group of restaurateurs coming together and us solving each other's problems. And what happens in your calls that you're organizing in your group, you get a taste of that. You leave that energized and ready to take on the world. It's like you get a chance to step away for a moment, and you can start accomplishing a lot more because you come back and you are talking with like-minded people who have the same problems that you have, who have solutions to the problems you're experiencing, and then also you have the ability to help others in the group. And it's a really powerful thing that is not common in the restaurant industry. And so I'm really glad you're organizing it.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
I'm stoked. And so we have a couple calls to action. First and foremost, head over to restaurantsystemspro.net/unstoppable and or restaurantunstoppable.com/RSP if you feel like you need to do more homework. But honestly, just go over to Restaurant Systems Pro. Like, you're going to do it. And then lastly, I would love to have you guys join Restaurant Unstoppable Network by heading to restaurantunstoppable.com/RU Network. Lots of calls to actions. But and like you
put all these links in the podcast notes.
I'll put them in the notes. Just scroll down. We'll link to it to make it super simple for you. And any final thoughts before we say?
I'm just excited about the future because I just had a client recently who came to us only for accounting. They came to us only for accounting, and they lost $200,000 last year.
Wow. And
we met with them. So because we're doing the accounting and we can see that, we're like, hey, you lost money, and we don't want you losing money. We want your operations to be to surpass your accounting needs. So just because you have your books doesn't mean anything if you lost $200,000. And in December, he got to where he turned a profit. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
You got to call somebody out. I think you had me. You called out somebody last time. I don't think I ever connected with them. Do you remember who it was? Todd or Tad? Peels or Steels?
Goodness.
Scott, maybe.
I don't remember who I called out last time, but
I gotta make that happen.
There's different people I'm meeting in there. I don't know when you've interviewed Josh last, but I was really inspired speaking with him the other day from Mies.
Oh, right. Well, I'm actually going to be connecting with him.
Okay.
Yeah.
So definitely him. There's other people in the industry. I'm trying to think of a restaurateur, but honestly, Will Brawley is such a great guy from Schedule Fly. Like he is, his heart for restaurateurs and what he's doing. I was just on his podcast, and he's just a guy that loves restaurateurs like I do.
Yeah, I love
and
Will.
he is just he's just top notch, and he's
been
somebody
incredibly
in your life.
supportive of me. And I actually had him on the show not that long ago. I think it was last summer. I can barely remember it because I had a gallstone.
Okay.
I drove from New Hampshire to North Carolina. I was like, I don't feel good. And I recorded like 5 interviews in 3 days, and I was like doubled over in pain the whole time. I got maybe 2 hours of sleep in 3 days, and I was like, well, if I look like I am dying, it's not because of the conversation.
Because I actually am.
Anyway, so I feel like I owe him another interview for sure.
Yeah.
Fred, thank you so much. I just can't echo enough the gratitude I have for you, for the support, for you believing in me and what I'm trying to do. And I literally cannot do what I do. I always say this to all my guests, but with you, it really it's like it's double. Like it means more when I say I can't do what I do without people like you.
I appreciate you saying that, because I think people sometimes are like, oh, of course Eric's saying this about Restaurant Systems Pro. They're sponsoring him. But the reality is we're sponsoring you because we believe in what you're doing, that we're on the same path, and I feel like we can support one another. You're my friend and family at this point. Like, dude, you stayed at my house for like a month.
I know the coach,
dude, right? I know, right? So it's we're doing exciting things, and we're going to make an impact on the restaurant industry together too. And I'm really happy to be doing it shoulder to shoulder with you.
That means a lot, man.
Cool.
Thank you so much. This is where I say there is no questioning. You are unstoppable.